right, hello everybody. This is The People We Meet, Season 1, Episode 2. And I'm with my friend Mike, who I met in Costco. I saw him walking around the store with his wife. I recognized him by his hat. Stated that he was a Vietnam veteran. You had an Agent Orange patch on your hat there. I'd like to hear about that as we go along. Saw that he it was the recipient of a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart, and we struck up a conversation. And Mike was kind enough to invite me to come over in his home and sit down and do an interview. So, Mike, welcome to my show. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
One of the social gimmick that we have on The People We Meet is to sit down and share a beverage. And Mike picked out our beverage for the day. What are we drinking, Mike?
We're drinking Hawaiian coffee, macadamia nut, straight from Hawaii.
Love it. I already had half a cup while I was trying to set up my equipment here. So we're going to get right into it. I'm always intrigued by the people that I meet, and they're everywhere. And the story should always start at the beginning. And Mike, tell me a little bit about where you came from and what it was like, what your family was like, what it was like for you growing up.
Yes, I was born and raised in Reardon on a farm, and I had 4 brothers and 3 sisters. And we all went to school at Reardon High School and grade school all together.
And there was how many of you?
And there were 7 of us. It was a different kind of life living on the farm. There was enough of us. We even had our own little baseball team. And my dad built a little baseball field in the cow pasture. And we spent time out there playing baseball. And that's where I got into sports.
Nice. So, and where are you in the hierarchy?
I was the number 3. I had an older sister and an older brother.
Okay. And then I'm guessing you probably all had a fair amount of responsibility.
Oh, yeah. We had cows to take care of, and we raised pigs, and we had chickens and the usual cats and dogs and all the good stuff.
Did you get up early to take care of that before you went to school?
Well, yeah. If we weren't watching the Three Stooges in the morning before the bus showed up. That was our morning routine, was that.
So you got to ride the bus. You didn't have to walk uphill both ways in the snow?
No. We did get snowed in a few times and missed school, but we always had something to do.
Well, I'm sure it was busy. So growing up, playing baseball, working the farm, what were your parents like?
See, my dad was in World War II. He was a veteran. And my mom, she was a stay-at-home mom and took care of the family. And we were on a 3,000-acre wheat farm, and my mom did the cooking during harvest and stuff and raised us kids. And we always had a big harvest crew, so there's plenty for her to do.
So your dad was home from the war before you were born, right?
Yes.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Did he share his experiences with you? Was he one of those guys that talked about his time in the service and his adventures, or did he keep mum?
He didn't talk about it an awful lot, but he did have a lot of his soldier buddies that lived around the area here, and we used to go visit them quite often, and it was kind of an learning experience there.
So he kept in contact with his buddies after the war.
Yes.
So that military background was kind of ingrained in you. That and a work ethic maintaining the farm. So
right.
So then you graduated high school.
Mm-hmm.
Then where'd you go after that?
Okay, after I graduated from high school, I worked at McCall Farm Chemicals, delivering farm fertilizers. And after about 2 years, I got drafted into the Army and went to Fort Lewis for basic and infantry AIT, advanced infantry training.
How did you feel getting drafted? Were you scared, or were you like, hey, I got this?
Well, really, I can't really remember that far back, but I don't think I was scared. I think, it was just something I had to do. And I spent my 21st birthday in the reception station in Fort Lewis.
Is that right?
And from then on, after that, I went over to Vietnam in May 2nd of 1968 and returned home in May 2nd of 69.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So you said that you were mechanized infantry.
Yes, 1st of the 50th Mechanized Infantry. We were attached to the 173rd Airborne Brigade. So We bailed them out a few times.
Would they agree to that?
Yep.
Tell me about the mechanized infantry, because I'm a Marine, and not everybody knows that. Not everybody knows what you did.
Okay. Well, I was a C-140, which is a mortar tune operator, and I was on the mortar track, and we had 2 mortar tracks, and we always had 3 infantry unit tracks, which are APCs. Then we had the rest of the battalion. We had 4 tanks and 2 dusters and 2 flamethrowers that always went to the field with us. So
Explain what a duster is.
okay, a duster is a quad 40 20 millimeter cannons that puts out quite a bit of firepower.
So you're forced to be reckoned with.
Yeah, they didn't want to mess with us too often. The only time they did, they would ambush us. But
so sneak, yeah, they were sneaky. So what was your, backing up just a little bit, what was your perception going to Vietnam? How did you perceive the war at the beginning, and how did you feel when they said, "Oh, we're shipping you out to Nam"?
I really didn't know what to expect, but I felt a responsibility going over, and I wanted to do my fair share and my duty. When I got there, like I say, I didn't expect anything out of it. And when I got there, I was a replacement. Like I say, our unit was in a battle on May 5th, and pretty much annihilated. And I was a replacement for that unit.
So how many guys were left out of the original?
There's probably about 7 or 8 out of all of us. Probably 40. Yeah, it was a lot.
So how did you interact with? Did you get to know those guys, the original crew, the survivors?
Yes, yeah, because a lot of them were still there, probably in country for another 3-4 months after I got there. So yeah, we got to interact a lot. I got to learn a lot about the people that were casualties. And
so the question for you about that, because a lot of times it seems like a lot of times the replacements are kind of looked down on by the guys that are there. Not so much looked down on, but they don't want to get to know them, because they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to get close to these guys. They're new. They don't know what they're doing. They're probably not going to be around long. How did they treat you?
Well, I think they treated us very well, because most of them knew that they had to depend on us like we had to depend on them. So they kind of handheld us and guided us through the ins and the outs of being in combat.
So they took care of you.
They took care of us.
So who was in charge?
We had a first lieutenant was our commander, and the platoon Sergeant Hubbs, was in charge of our mortar platoon, and each track Sergeant Hubbs, he was our platoon sergeant.
And was he an original, or was he?
He was an original.
He was an original. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then my other buddy that I still stay in contact with was Bill Bontemps, mm-hmm. and he was our unit photographer, and he was wounded in the battle on May 5th, but he came back from the hospital and rejoined our unit. So if you don't mind me asking, what was his leadership style like? Because there's combat leadership, there's garrison leadership, corporate leadership. What was his leadership style?
Well, it's kind of like this, like you see on TV. You don't dare salute in the field. And as for being the leader, if you had suggestions or ideas, they listened to you. They weren't, you do this, you do that. They were pretty responsive to the unit.
So even though you guys are a bunch of new guys showing up in the bush, mm-hmm. he'd already been there and done it. He still listened to you.
Yes, they did.
Did you trust him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't have much choice. But they wouldn't have been there if they, couldn't be trusted. So
right.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. So, all right. So, and then, let's see, and then you were wounded.
Mm-hmm. That was on May 25th.
And you got there May 5th?
May 5th.
So you've been there not quite 3 weeks.
Quite 3 weeks. And you had to be there a month before you earned your CIB. So after the first firefight, I earned that medal, the CIB. So
Combat Infantry.
Yep. Combat Infantryman's badge.
Gotcha. So how did it happen?
Well, we had pulled in and we went into Cordon in search of village that they had been in a week before, and we pulled in, circled the village, and they asked for people to go in and search the village. Being new in country, I volunteered. I said, yeah, I want to go because I want to see what it was all about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we probably got within 50 yards of the village, and they opened fire on us. There was an ambush, a battalion ambush waiting for us.
Mm.
So me and this other guy dove behind a rice dike. All heck was breaking loose, and we stayed there until our unit got fire superiority and decided, well, it's time to jump back up and run back to the APC. Well, we did, and being new like I was, I dropped my rifle. So like a dumb shit, I turned around and I went back and got it. And then when we got to the APC, this guy that was with me said, what'd you go back for? I said, I dropped my rifle. He says, you can always get another one. He said, you're lucky. They also had taken a round on our APC from a B-40 rocket, which our driver, which Steve saw coming and threw the APC in reverse and backed up, and the mortar or the rocket went into the engine compartment and glanced out the bottom. Otherwise, it would have killed him and destroyed our APC. And he said, yeah, you're stupid going back to get your rifle.
That's not what they teach you in boot camp.
Yeah. But then, we got on the APC and I manned one of the 60 machine guns. And the fire coming in, we was glancing off the shield on the 60, and I got shrapnel from incoming rounds in my hand and my arm.
Did you know it at the time, or did you figure it out?
Oh, I felt it. It was like a bee sting, you know. And I looked down, saw the blood.
Mm-hmm.
And after we pulled back and had to resupply to go back in, I went over to the medevac, and I was supposed to go in and have it treated. I was helping load some of the guys onto the helicopter, and we had a forward observer. It was on one of the other tracks from an 8B company. Mm-hmm. And he had a mortar round hit right next to him. He was standing on his APC calling in fire, and I helped load him in, and it was like grabbing hamburger, and he died in our hands. And when he did that, I decided then and there I wasn't wounded that bad, so I refused to go in and stayed in the field, and the medic took our names and stuff for the Purple Heart. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't see taking space on the medevac when there's people wounded worse than I was.
How many others were there that you loaded?
Oh, there was probably on the first medevac 7 or 8. Mm-hmm. And then one of the tank commanders, he got wounded and he took 3 rounds in the chest. He walked over and got on himself. How he did, I don't know. Mm. But I decided, I can stay out here.
It's a tough day.
It was. So it was a break-in day.
Yeah. Now, was it just your unit, or was there another unit with you?
Okay, Alpha Company and Bravo Company, they were on the other side of the village, and they were getting hit, too, from that side. Mm-hmm. And like I say, we had to pull back out and get resupplied because we were running out of ammunition. And we were getting sniper fire. They had the NVA were up in the trees. Mm-hmm. And shooting down us, yeah.
Did you figure out how big of a force they were?
It was a battalion. Right. It was, I don't know how many it would have been, and after about 2 hours, we resupplied and came back in. They were gone. There wasn't even a body to be counted. They take them with them.
Really? Mm-hmm. So then what happened after that? Now you ended up with a Bronze Star also.
Mm-hmm. That was basically our unit got it for meritorious service for the actions that we were in.
So it was a hell of a fight.
It was.
How long did it last?
Well, let's see. We pulled in there early in the morning, and we didn't get back to base camp until late that night. So it went all day. And once we resupplied, we came back in, and we went crashing through the jungle trying to catch them, and we never did catch up with any of them.
So tell me a little bit about the aftermath. Like, how did you feel? Like, I know I've gotten pretty well amped up on occasion. How did you feel?
Well, I don't know. I guess your adrenaline's up so high that it just takes a while to come down. Mm-hmm. And then you get a chance to think about it. And, I thought about, the forward observer that I helped get on the medevac. And yeah, and I still see it today. It's something that you can't get rid of.
How do you feel about it now?
I feel like, I have no regrets going over there, but some of the things I saw, it still haunts me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I still have nightmares. In fact, when I first got married, my wife said I'd wake up in the middle of the night and take swings at her and stuff. So, yeah, you don't forget it.
No, I imagine you don't. How many of the guys that you served with do you still talk to today?
Right now, just the one, because everybody else has passed away from the Agent Orange, and we've moved apart and lost contact. But the one photographer we had, him and I have become good friends, and he's got a son that lives in Seattle. Mm-hmm. He lives in Ellery, Illinois, so he comes through quite often, and we get together and got to know him real well, him and his family.
Pretty tight.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a special bond there.
Oh, it is. It is.
The guys that I was in the Marine Corps with, there's still like this core group of us that, mm-hmm. We get together and like all those personalities come out, and it's like, I swear you could be right back. You're right back in the field, mm-hmm. back in the barracks, like the banter.
Oh, yeah. And talk about this and that, and it all comes back to you. And
yeah. And we try to get together every couple of years or so. Mm-hmm. And it's like something, it just seems like it doesn't, it's important, mm-hmm. and it is a brotherhood.
It is. Well, you're brothers. I mean, for a year, you're all same foxholes and stuff. So you're there you did one full tour. Yeah, 1 year.
So May 5th to May 5th, mm-hmm. 68 to 69. What was it like coming home?
Well, there wasn't any bands playing and stuff. But when I did come home, I had 6 months left on my tour. So I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia, and did my last 6 months there and got out in November of 69. And when I came home, it was just basically my family that was at the airport to meet me.
That was probably enough, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. it was different.
So, how did you feel about? So I see, like family was there waiting for you. It's awesome. How did you feel about getting back into society with the perception of the war at the time? What was it like dealing with civilians again, getting on with life?
Yeah, well, it was tough. I remember we'd go to a bar or something, and you never sat with your back to the door, and always vigilant, and keeping an eye on everybody, and it was still fresh in your mind. Be alert.
Yeah. Did you blend? Did you grow your hair out, or were you still easily identified as a member of the armed forces?
I always had short hair.
Yeah.
Always had short hair because our basketball coach in high school, that was one thing. You didn't have long hair. So, that carried on to the military when everybody was getting these crew cuts and stuff. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to get a haircut because it was already short.
Yeah. So how did people treat you?
Most of them, from the neighborhood and stuff, they treated you fine.
Good.
It wasn't like a lot of the guys that I heard about that from California would be spit on and mm-hmm. called baby killers and stuff. I never saw any of that, but everybody treated me fine.
And did you have any trouble assimilating back into society?
Not really.
So what was your first gig after you got back? You went out, found a job, and
yeah, I did. I went back to work where I was working before I got drafted because they hired me back on. And I worked there for, probably a year. And then I heard about this job with the U.S. Bureau of Mines. They were looking for a veteran. And I went and I applied and got the job. And I worked for the federal government for 40 years with the Bureau of Mines as an engineering technician and all the stuff I learned in farming and stuff. Basically made it an easy job for me.
Why were they looking for a veteran in particular? Did you have
They were veteran minded. They wanted to hire a vet, and it was the federal government. I think there was a mandate they had to hire a few, but
mm-hmm. Sounds like they were good. You stuck around.
They were great. They were great.
So then and then what At what point I met I got to briefly talk with your wife when we were talking in Costco. When did you meet your wife?
I met my wife in 1972. She was working in Reardon at a drive-in there, and my sister introduced us, and we got to going out and stuff, and we ended up getting married in 74 and been married ever since.
And how many kids?
We had 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and now we have 4 great-grandchildren and 1 great-grandson. And they keep me young. They keep you busy.
Well, I'm good, because I know they can be a handful and they can be exhausting. So let me ask you this. So looking back, I mean, you've done some really interesting stuff. You came from a hard-working background where you learned how to work pretty hard as a kid. Mm-hmm. What life lessons did you take with you that you apply now? How do the things that you learned along the way apply now?
Well, I think I probably learned that once you start something, you finish it. And you do the best job you can. You don't just half do something and follow through. You want to be proud of what you do. And I try to follow that, and I instilled that in my kids. And both of them, I think it took, because I got a son that's doing real well, and I got a daughter that owns her own business over on the coast in Marysville, and she's doing real well. And
good. So we've got quite a difference in mindset between your generation. You're a boomer, baby boomer,
right?
I'm a Gen Xer, and now you've got the millennials, you got the Gen Z, and like there's very different mindsets between all of them. I think. I think, and I'm proud to say that I think that my generation empathizes and identifies very much with yours. Mm-hmm. We took a lot of this. So there's all kinds of jokes about how we grew up. Yeah, drinking out of the garden hose and not coming home until the street lights come on and all that. What would you like to tell the younger generations now? Like, what do you see? Like, what kind of advice would you give?
Well, probably one of the first things I'd say is put the cell phone down and communicate in person. Look towards the future. Mm-hmm. There's things out there that are waiting for you. Like me, I enjoyed the military, even though I got drafted. If you can put up with it and do 20 years, the military is a good place to get an education. Mm-hmm. They have tech schools. They have all kinds of training. And if you want to pursue your college, they help pay for it. And if you don't know what you're doing, go in and give it a try. It doesn't hurt.
I would agree with that.
And they make men and women out of you. Agreed. That's probably the biggest thing that I saw going in. Yeah. You went in as a kid, you came out as a man.
That's very good advice.
Yep.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I don't know, other than I look forward to another 20 years, if possible, to spend with my grandkids to help guide them as they grow. And right now, my grandkids take advice from me, and I think they honor it. So good. I'm hoping that, all the grandparents are listened to. They know a lot more than you think.
Yeah, and I think they tend to listen to the ones that spoil them rotten, too, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're probably 1 and 2 on that, my wife and I.
I want to tell you, it was a pleasure to run across you in Costco. I saw you walking over there, and I'm like, and I'd learned my lesson, because there was a guy that if I could go find him, I would. He was a Navy CB, and I talked about that in my first episode. And and after that, I decided I will not hesitate to go talk to somebody that I want to talk to. I don't want to regret not having a few words. And I really appreciate how nice you were in Costco, and that you invited me into your home to sit here and talk. You're an honorable man. You've done some amazing things, and it's been a privilege to talk with you.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate talking with you. And in the rest of your endeavor, I wish you the best.
Thanks, Mike. You take care, and we'll have this episode out to you as soon as we can.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you, partner, and thank you for the coffee.
You're quite welcome.